I'd like to go ahead and just thank, obviously, Brooke Cushman and the search committee and everyone that was involved in the interview process. LC is a very special place to me. I've worked here for 6 years, and I moved here when I was 24, and so in a lot of ways I feel like I grew up here as a coach from a professional standpoint, and also grew a lot personally, and met my wife Kelly here, who is an alum of LC State, and so I feel very appreciative to be back, and there's a ton of people to thank, and I'm very grateful for the experience I had at Corbin University the last 2 years. It really allowed me to grow as a head coach and get that experience and get that opportunity. And the administration there was great, and leaving the players is a really hard thing, but it was a hard thing because I invested in those guys' lives, and I plan to do the same exact thing here at LC State. And it definitely feels like I'm coming home, and I couldn't be more excited to be a part of it. I think once you're here, you know what a unique place this is in terms of small college athletics. It's run like a Division I university. There's great support staff, there's great facilities, there's great community involvement. And so when I left, there's really only one job that would have taken me from Corbin, and this was it. And when this presented itself, and it felt like I needed something I needed to pursue. And so just the history, I mean, going back, there's only been a handful of head coaches in the last 30 or 40 years at LC, and that says a lot about the type of job it is. It says a lot about the community that's here and the administrators. And so to be a part of that, like I said, it's kind of a dream come true. I got to pinch myself a little bit that I'm here, and so, but just having an inside experience. I mean, I was here for 6 years, and we kind of helped build this thing. In my last year, we were 29-5, and I had Jake Wiley, who played in the NBA this year. And so once you've kind of been in it on the ground floor level as an assistant, I mean, to get handed the keys to drive the bus is something that I couldn't pass up.
What are your long-term goals for Warriors athletically?
Long-term goals, to me, I got into coaching because of the players, and I want to give them a great student-athlete experience. And I think the student-athlete experience exists within their time at LC, but it also exists in their time outside of LC in terms of, my hope is to bridge some gaps in terms of alumni. I've known guys, I got here 8 years ago, so basically I have almost a decade of knowing alums, and I think long-term goals is just continue to get more involvement from alums in our program, and just to continue to take steps as a program. This is a great program, it's in great shape. Coach Rinta left it in great shape. And so I think a long-term goal is to just continue to see what the ceiling of this program is. And I don't think this program has seen its ceiling yet. I think that can still be found, and my hope is that I'm the guy who's going to get us there.
What is the ceiling?
Want to win a national championship. That's the goal. I mean, I think you can't talk about that stuff at some schools. I think that this is a place where you can talk about that, and it's been proven in other sports. And so it's an unbelievable challenge, but it's an unbelievable opportunity that doesn't exist. There's a lot of places it doesn't exist, and you kind of get laughed at for talking about that. But there's high expectations here, and I embrace that.
Austin, you've only been gone a couple of years. Are you familiar with the current players on the staff? Did you recruit any of the guys that are currently on the roster?
Yeah, that's what's kind of interesting is I coached, Derek White and David Shedrick. My last year here, Derek White, I just met with him. He was a freshman, and now I'm going to coach him as a senior. Recruited Ray Martin out of high school when he was at Pullman High. I had recruited Tristan and Braden from Lewiston High when I was at Corbin, and so there's a lot of familiarity with the roster. Corey Dollarhide, talked to him a few times when I was at Corbin and coached one of his friends at Corbin, and so there's a lot of parallels roster-wise.
You worked under Brandon. Philosophically, are there similarities in terms of what you're going to do with the team, or does that change knowing that you have so many returning players under his system? Do you run the same stuff?
There's some things, there's definitely some parallels. There's definitely some things that we do the same. Defensively, still want to really pressure the basketball, want to throw in some full court pressure, but there's a lot I've learned about myself and what I like to teach and what I feel comfortable teaching. So there'll be some differences, but from an offensive standpoint, just continue to be really unselfish, push the pace. We've got great athletes, we've got size, we've got guys who can stretch the floor, guys who can come off ball screens, and so I think that's offensively, I wouldn't expect a ton of changes. It's not broke, don't fix it. Defensively, there's some concepts that I really enjoy teaching and think that can really help us long term, and I'll probably try and employ those. But and I'm saying that right now, and it's May. I'm sure in August, September, October, to be around the guys, or we did different things that I see or things I like, and different guys taking steps as individual players on the roster as well.
What's the biggest thing you learned from your time as an assistant here to being a head coach for 2 years?
I learned a lot from Brandon Rinta, I learned a lot from Lewis Clark State, and that's ultimately why I'm back here. And so I learned a lot about work, not just from Brandon Rinta, but from Ryan Orr, from Jeremiah Robbins, from Gary Piccone, from Brooke Cushman, and Mike Collins. And I learned a lot about work, and I think that allowed me to really, in 2 years, overachieve probably what we maybe should have done in Corbin. And so learn about work, learn about communication, and maximizing your resources. And every school has different resources. And so I'd say that's a big piece in just making it about the people. For me, that's going to be making it about the student athletes. And Coach Rinta is obviously really big on that. And I think that's why he's had success over the course of his 7 years here. And so probably just a new level of work. I thought I worked hard. When I went to work with Brandon Rinta, I learned there's some different definitions of hard work, and I'm very appreciative of that.
What's your message to the players in tonight's meeting?
Like I said, I've been through a coaching transition as a player and as an assistant coach, and so I think one of the biggest things is just making sure that they're doing all right. Unknown for anyone at any age is a challenge, especially if you're a college athlete. And I take my role as a head coach very seriously, and there's a lot of power dynamics in those relationships. And so I want to make sure that they're doing okay. I want to make sure they're finishing up all right academically with this being finals week. I want to, in the next 48, 72 hours, get to know them as well as I possibly can. And the message is to, from day one, come ready to work next fall. There's a lot of, the few conversations I've had, there's a lot of expectations and excitement. But that doesn't hang banners, and we've really got to put in the work. And with as much of a veteran group as we have, that should be an advantage to where we don't get off to a slow start in terms of conditioning or in the weight room or things like that. And so the biggest thing is to come ready. With 7 seniors, my goal is to help those 7 seniors have the best possible experience they have during their last year at LC State. And a lot of that's on me, but a lot of that's on them. And so I would say the biggest thing is getting to know them and then getting to know me, and then making sure we're clear on some expectations. And I want to hit the ground running when we get all together next fall.
Exciting times for you. Is it kind of overwhelming, everything that's going on?
I think one thing that helps me is I've been in this position 2 years ago. And in terms of, again, regardless of if the program's in good shape or not good shape, any transition is hard. And even though I have familiarity with Brooke and then some people, even in this room, it's different. I wasn't a head coach back then. And so I think what helps me is I've been through this transition before, and I know I've got some long nights and some long days coming up, being on the phone, getting to know our players, getting familiar with some of the ins and outs of where this program's at. And so I don't think I have time to stop and feel overwhelmed. I think there's just always something to do, move on. And my hope is in 12 months that I'll be able to relax a little bit, but that's probably pushing it. So, but a lot of excitement. I think I feel extremely fortunate. I got into coaching. I didn't have any big, Division I or bust, or I want to do this, or I want to get rich and famous. I got into it because I love being a college athlete, and I want people to have the same experience. And so, there's a little sense of I'm exhausted. I'll tell you that. I got into town at 3 a.m. and was hearing the trucks go by at 5:30, and so, but I'm excited, and I know I'm very grateful and very appreciative for this opportunity, and I think that's what's kind of driving me too. This means a lot to me, and it's not something where a day is going to go by where I'm not doing something to better our program or better myself as a coach. So
it's kind of when you first came out here, you probably didn't necessarily expect to stay here a long time.
It's funny. Not at all. not at all. And then to be here for 8 or 9 months, and then when Coach Walker resigned, I actually had accepted a job, a junior college job in Arizona, and I met Rinta, and I've talked to some mentors and some people I know, and they're like, hey, you should, if Coach Rinta wants you to stay, you should stay. And so I was like, eh. And I didn't really want to move. Like, I mean, I just moved from Illinois here, and so stayed. And I had looked at some other jobs, and phone interviewed for some other jobs during my time as an assistant, and so just to kind of see what all is out there for someone like me when you're an assistant at LC State. And so I didn't expect to be here very long, and I'd be lying. I mean, but I stepped foot on this campus, I believe it's literally been 8 years ago this week. And so to be here is really surreal. And my career has been far more fortunate, far more blessed than I could have ever thought. And a lot of that's because of our players that I've had at every year, every place I've been, and a lot of it's been because of people like Brand Rinta and Drew Church. So.